I'm the victim, but I'm being treated like the villain.
Frustration over car thefts in Baltimore as a man says he's been a target several times, where he says city leaders are falling short in protecting residents. Crime expected to be the focus of next year's mayoral election. How one analyst thinks Mayor Scott's comments on violence could be impacting the race.
This is the day-by-day approach, hour-by-hour process. Nothing is guaranteed.
And dozens of hostages are released on day 3 of a pause in the fighting between Israel and Hamas. Why world leaders say the war won't be on hold for long.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala. Car crimes are continuing to impact really all corners of Baltimore. The latest just a few blocks from our TV station tonight. Baltimore police say a woman was carjacked by 2 people who pulled a weapon on her along Clipper Mill Road in Hamden. She was able to get a child out of the car before police say the suspects drove off in her car. We'll keep you updated on this story as we learn more. Residents also raising concern about car thefts, which have more than tripled compared to this time last year. One North Baltimore man saying he's been a victim of the city's stolen car crisis several times, with the latest theft caught on camera. Fox 45's Vincent Hill shares a man's frustration with criminals and city leaders.
Yeah, so what's that old saying, lightning never strikes twice in the same place? Well, in Baltimore City, sometimes car thieves do.
A not-so-typical Sunday morning for this North Baltimore man.
I woke up to my vehicle, 2019 Kia Soul, being stolen.
John Floyd spent his morning calling 911 several times.
Particular 34, 10-8, auto theft I have holding.
It took him several hours to get here.
When police finally got there, he showed them this piece of evidence.
On my camera is 2 guys standing at my car.
It shows 2 suspects casing out his car. Floyd installed the camera a few months ago.
I'm taking a second loss again.
Because it's the second time his car's been stolen.
Steering, light switch, signal.
Those parts, among others, he had to have replaced the first time. The repair cost
$8,088.
If that bill wasn't high enough.
Speed camera ticket that they sent me to pay.
And despite this promise from the mayor a few weeks ago.
What we're talking about now is, again, one, getting rid of those fees for auto theft. There's a process for that as well, to get those things taken off.
According to Floyd, that process is flawed.
I go to check on it. They tell me that I got to have a police report.
Not just the report number, but a hard copy of the report.
I might as well pay the ticket if I'm going to go buy a police report.
The added cost, adding to Floyd's frustration.
I'm the victim, but I'm being treated like the villain. I mean, these guys go around stealing these cars each and every day, tearing people's cars up, and we got to dig in our pockets.
A frustration not only towards the criminals, but those in charge of fighting crime.
They need to get on top of the crime rate as far as stealing cars. The mayor, the police, commissioner, or whoever is on top of crime and things in this city, they need to do something.
And yeah, Floyd tells me he actually had a wheel lock on that car when it was stolen, so he doesn't know exactly how the thieves were able to get it. Meanwhile, Baltimore police latest data says 9,720 cars have been stolen in Baltimore City this year. New data is due out next week. In Baltimore, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Well, several carjackings, car thefts, and attempted thefts have turned violent across the city this year. Last weekend, police say a man chased down a 16-year-old, attempted to steal his car in southeast Baltimore, holding down the teen until police arrived and arrested that teen. Now, earlier this month, the 12 and 14-year-old were arrested for beating a woman and attempting to steal her car in Butchers Hill. They were released just 2 hours after their arrest. And this summer, 57-year-old Daryl Benner was shot and killed just steps from his home in Canton after attempting to intervene with suspects who were stealing his nephew's car.
He did take his final breath laying in my lap, covered in blood.
You should always be situationally aware, but the fact is it's really hard to defend against a crime when you're, going about your day and a car rolls up and comes to a stop behind you, and then within 10 seconds you're surrounded by people with handguns.
Well, this month, Mayor Scott released an action plan to address the spike in car thefts. The initiative includes multiple steering wheel lock distribution events, system upgrade clinics to improve securities in Kia and Hyundais, distributing GPS trackers for city residents to put in their cars, and expanding the city's network of license plate readers. And police say 38% of stolen cars this year in Baltimore are by juveniles, but only 2/3 of those suspects are reported to the Department of Juvenile Services, and only 5% end up actually serving time in a DJS facility. The City Council was critical of those numbers at a meeting this month, saying change isn't possible without accountability.
Baltimore City, we are failing our young people. And if we're not getting the job right, and they see that we're acting a fool, and we're not taking them seriously, they're not going to take us seriously.
We are having a crisis around young people that are committing very violent crimes, being arrested, and then not being fully held accountable.
Well, in Annapolis, state Republicans are touting a 5-part proposal to address crime, including the Juvenile Justice Restoration Act. It would force anybody under 13 charged with a gun crime or any child arrested for the same nonviolent crime 3 times to automatically go into DJS supervision. But the plan doesn't address problems we've seen with home detention once a child leaves DJS.
Is there an element in this proposal that goes after the home monitoring aspect of DJS?
So not in this particular proposal, no.
So just so I'm clear, you're referring more children to DJS, but not providing funding or programming to help DJS supervise them?
Those kids need more than what the child in need of assistance or child in need of supervision system can provide them. And so I think resources have been cut. That's a budgetary issue. As you know, we'll see what Governor Moore's budget says.
Fox 45 News pressed Governor Moore last Monday. He said he will have a plan to address juvenile crime, but it's not clear when those specifics will be released. State lawmakers will hold another juvenile crime hearing in December. A 33-year-old man was shot this morning along North Curley Street in southeast Baltimore. Police say the man was sitting in a car when he was hit in the arm. He then walked into the hospital. Anybody with information on potential suspects is asked to call police. Crime is expected to be a focal point of the upcoming mayoral race, where former Mayor Sheila Dixon has emerged as the biggest challenger to Mayor Scott. Dixon tells Fox 45 News she's never seen this level of dysfunction from City Hall, echoing comments from Councilman Eric Costello earlier this month.
I have to deal with the city on a regular basis with my clients, and I can see the dysfunction, not in one agency, but practically in every agency. And that is reflected of the leadership, and it's reflected in who you hire, the people that work for you. I've never seen city government so dysfunctional as it is now.
And Fox 45 News has reached out to Mayor Scott for a one-on-one interview. He has not responded to our invitations. He did talk about Costello's comments on WBAL radio earlier this month, touting his accomplishments.
Leadership that's failing the city is almost a laughable comment when my leadership has the city on pace to be under 300 homicides for the first time in 9 years. Investing in our education, opening rec centers, not closing them like the person he's endorsing did when she was mayor.
Attribute the drop in homicides to the partnership between City State's Attorney Ivan Bates and U.S. Attorney for Maryland Eric Barron. Both promised a tougher on-crime approach in the city. Homicides are down 20% and non-fatal shootings are down 9% since that partnership began. Mayor Scott addressed that claim.
I love them both dearly. Their cases are made by police officers that work for Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore City. We direct. The rest are done by us. All the enforcement is done by us.
Well, Peace spokesperson Giovanni Patterson joined us on Fox 45 News this morning, saying city leaders should celebrate collaboration rather than taking credit.
What we see in Baltimore is really this kiss the ring mentality where, certain people have to get credit for certain things when it, could be a team effort, or there could be certain other aspects, avenues that reduce the crime versus the actual crime plan.
Well, Fox 45's Taylor Stewart spoke to political analyst John Deedy, who discussed how the mayor's comments could impact the election.
a central focus in the approaching mayoral race.
One of them brandished a knife.
Crime, as the reality of it impacts the candidates themselves. Last week, former Mayor Sheila Dixon tweeting Baltimore needs to be better after a double shooting forced her to cancel a West Baltimore event on Monday.
I think it could be huge because with a lot of things in political issues, is perception reality.
Political analyst John Deedy pointing out both fatal and non-fatal shootings are down in the city, with homicides on pace to dip below 300 for the first time in 9 years.
This could be a big win for the mayor and help him towards re-election, because psychologically people may say, well, gosh, now that the number is 270 and everyone's going to focus on that, maybe things are getting better.
Despite that, Fox 45 News has heard from several residents who say they still don't feel safe in Baltimore.
It's not safe. I don't feel safe. Neighbors are talking about they're afraid to walk out of their house.
I think feeling safe and being safe are different things. Do I feel safe? I don't know that I feel 100% safe.
For the first time, I really don't feel safe.
A sentiment Deedy says could push voters to Dixon.
Crime numbers not only went down while she was mayor, but continued to go down with the policies she placed in after she had to resign.
As the race thickens, Deedy says the candidate with a winning strategy on two key issues.
And if she could focus on the issue of education and crime and tie that in together,
has the best chance of coming out on top next May. Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
Here is our question of the day. Who do you trust to reduce crime and keep your family safe in Baltimore? Mayor Brandon Scott or Sheila Dixon? So far, 84% of people who voted say Sheila Dixon. You can weigh in right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. A Goucher poll released last month showed Dixon with a lead over Mayor Scott in a hypothetical primary. She had 39% of voter support compared to 27% for Scott. 23% of voters say they would prefer another candidate, while 8% are undecided. One of those other candidates, Baltimore teacher Wendy Bozell. Bozell serves as the president of the Upper Fells Point Improvement Association and mentioned crime, vacant homes, and food insecurity as pillars of her campaign. John Deedy also talked about Bozell's chances, saying she should narrow her focus if she wants to win voters over.
she's a teacher. She is getting this race because she's concerned about the crime issue related to her students and students in the Baltimore City school system. So if she could focus on that one issue, you don't have to focus on 50 issues to win. 1 or 2 are good enough. And if she could focus on the issue of education and crime and tie that in together, she could get enough traction to make a difference in this race.
Bozell is running as a member of the Maryland Forward Party, which identifies as a new party committed to finding common ground and solving big challenges across the state. Fox 45 News will continue to follow the mayoral race in the coming months. You can find all of our coverage and previous reporting online at foxbaltimore.com. More than a dozen hostages are being released by Hamas tonight as Israel frees 39 Palestinian girls in return. The Israeli cabinet is now considering extending the pause in fighting as President Biden also pushes for an extension of the truce. At least 100 trucks full of supplies from Egypt also made their way to Gaza amid this break in fighting. President Biden also addressing the negotiations tonight. We'll have his comments coming up.
Another group of hostages released by Hamas, including one American. But what about the others? I'm Christine Frizzell with a look at the delicate negotiations and the days ahead.
And your bus stop forecast tomorrow morning, a little bit cool. Temperatures at about 40 degrees, but at least the rain's gone. And tomorrow, not a bad day as highs reach to near 50. But we've got some bitter chill moving our way and maybe even a flake in the forecast. I'll let you know when that could get here. Coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Protesters in New York City shut down the Manhattan Bridge this afternoon, demanding President Biden call an immediate ceasefire in the Middle East. The group Jewish Voice for Peace organized the rally, one of several demonstrators and demonstrations across the U.S. today. President Biden not calling yet for a ceasefire, but he says he is hopeful the pause in fighting can continue until all hostages on both sides return home.
Well, look, you know the deal calls for every 10 hostages released to extend another day. So I'm hopeful this is not the end. It's going to continue. But we don't know.
Among those hostages released, a 4-year-old American girl. Dozens of Palestinian prisoners are also on their way home tonight. But as national correspondent Christine Frizzal reports, there are questions about what lies ahead.
The pause in the war in Gaza for a third day has meant a third group of hostages has been released. 17 people, including an American, Abigail Edan, who just turned 4 on Friday. It's meant the release of 39 Palestinian prisoners as well. President Biden appearing hopeful this initial agreement will yield more hostages and more peace.
That's our goal, to keep this pause going beyond tomorrow so that we can continue to see more hostages come out and surge more humanitarian relief into those who are in need in Gaza.
Indeed, aid has been pouring into the region, but with 14,000 reported killed and tens of thousands more wounded, local officials call it a drop in the ocean.
We need 200 aid trucks a day continuously for 2 months at least to meet the needs.
Meanwhile, back in Washington, there are mounting questions about the American hostages still in the custody of Hamas. Some Republicans accusing the White House of being weak.
Apparently, Hamas is so contemptuous of President Biden and American power that they feel the imperative to release Filipinos and Thai hostages before they release American hostages. That's just one small example of the weakness that President Biden has projected around the world.
But leaders in Israel paint a very different picture. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Isaac Herzog praising Biden's steadfast support for Israel and his work in the negotiations. As for what lies ahead, Israel's president hinting a two-state solution still seems a long way off.
Why would any Israeli immediately rush to this solution when he or she thinks that state one day can be taken over by Hamas? We Israelis, we demand to know how our safety and well-being will be preserved.
Fragile questions with answers altered by the hour. I'm Christine Frizzal reporting.
Well, police in Vermont say 3 Palestinian students were shot while visiting family this weekend. The students went for a walk before dinner, at which point someone opened fire. 2 of the victims are currently in the ICU. The students went to school along the West Bank before coming to America to study. The Council on American Islamic Relations says it is offering a $10,000 reward, leading to the arrest and conviction of the person responsible for that shooting. And we will continue to follow the ongoing conflict in the Middle East in the coming days. You can find all of our previous reporting on the war right now at foxbaltimore.com.
All right, taking a look at the HD radar this evening. Some much better news approaching us as we're heading into the beginning of our work week. Notice just some sprinkles left right around Chestertown, down to Easton, east of Fredericksburg, and all the way down to the Tidewater of Virginia. Most of the big rain that we were dealing with earlier has now passed north and east. Interestingly enough, as we put on the HD radar here, you'll notice there's some rain and even some snow. That's up in portions of New England. You've even got winter weather advisories, even some lake effect snow warnings that are out around northern Pennsylvania. So there is wintry weather associated with this thing, and we may even get a couple of flakes that try to come in off of the Great Lakes into Tuesday, perhaps. That's what some of the computer models are saying. Don't get too excited. Might be the first flakes of the season for some of us, but I don't think it's going to be much more than kind of counting a couple of them wafting across the sky here in the big wind. So in any case, it looks like, yes, most of the rain is over. There still could be a shower or two through about shortly after midnight. We've gotten up to about a quarter inch of rain. We've made some nice inroads into the moderate drought that we had established before the holiday weekend really came to be. If you remember last Tuesday, lots of rain, and now another rain-making system moving away. We're going to get a little bit of a break, but it's going to come at the expense of much colder weather drying out and big chill. Maybe not so much tomorrow, but especially Tuesday and Wednesday. Some cold temperatures. 44 right now, mostly cloudy skies, winds out of the southwest at 8. Even a little bit of a wind chill. 40 degrees is what it feels like right now. There's the heart of the cold air up around the Canadian border. And looks like as we work our way through the next couple of days, we're going to start seeing that roll south and east, and it's going to impact us. So through about shortly after midnight, there could be a shower or spritz. I think by tomorrow morning, sunshine's beginning to break out, so maybe even some late night clearing. You're going to need some sunglasses tomorrow as it turns windier with high temperatures getting close to 50. And get a load of this. This computer model is one of the outliers, but it is a very high resolution computer model. So I do put some trust in this. Take a look. 6 a.m. early Tuesday morning coming off the Great Lakes. Not much of it making it down toward our neck of the woods, but some lake effect snow showers and flurries depositing more copious amounts of snow up toward northwestern PA. But a couple of the streamers could produce a flurry or snow shower. This is a fairly common pattern this time of year, how we get some of these leftovers that kind of come our way. So there could be, you see the blue there, maybe a flurry or two with the colder weather arriving here on Tuesday, and maybe even to Tuesday afternoon, there could be a stray flake. It wouldn't be a total surprise. Shouldn't be any travel problems, though, but much colder weather. 36, any showers end tonight, clearing skies late, mostly sunny. Tomorrow, blustery day. 39, again, that stray flurry chance on Tuesday, and then we're at 43 on Wednesday. Nice warm up, but turns more unsettled as we head toward Friday, Saturday, Sunday into next weekend.
Jonathan, thank you. Still ahead, colder weather means more opportunities for potential thieves to trick homeowners, why younger adults may be more vulnerable to winter scams than their parents. As it gets colder, consumer experts are warning you to be aware of some winter scams. When it snows, expect an uptick in snowplow scams where homeowners pay up front, but no one ever shows up to do the work. And if you receive a notice about an overdue utility bill threatening to cut off service, be sure to verify with your local provider before forking over the cash. Experts say younger generations are actually falling victim to scams at a higher rate.
The public's perception is that older adults are the ones losing money to scammers. But what BBB research has shown is it's the 18 to 24-year-olds who are more susceptible to scams and losing more money than any other age group.
This winter, the Better Business Bureau says avoid paying for a job until it's complete and be sure to ask for references. Still ahead, lingering questions surrounding long-term COVID. Why some doctors say they're not well prepared to handle the side effects. Scientists are starting to unravel some of the mysteries surrounding long-term impacts of COVID-19. Many doctors saying they're left with no guidance on how to expose and treat these issues. Full Measure Shell Atkinson has one doctor's insight as he says he has found success with some patients.
If there's a singular person that first set the gears turning for Dr. Jordan Vaughn, it's Vandiver Chaplin.
Big deep breath in and out.
It was December 2020, shortly after his COVID vaccines. What were you feeling?
I just felt terrible, dizzy, lethargic, all those kind of things. And I was having some optical issues too.
You're kind of patient zero for Dr. Vaughn.
Well, that's what he told me. All I did was go get my vaccines and react to it.
Dr. Vaughn is an internal medicine specialist and CEO of MedHealth Clinics in Alabama. He ran some scans and other tests on Vandiver, his longtime patient, but didn't find anything abnormal.
And at that time, I did some blood work, found that he had abnormal clotting issues. He was significantly short of breath.
The abnormal blood clotting issues were there all along, says Vaughn, just hidden from view.
As I understand it, I was making lots of blood clots, but they were so tiny you couldn't detect them.
So I treated him as if he had something that I wasn't able to totally see, which would be smaller vascular issues, and his symptoms significantly improved. So that really pushed me off on a journey to say, what is going on here? There's got to be something there.
Dr. Vaughn was on to something. By the time we visited his Birmingham practice, he and his team had treated more than 1,100 patients, from athletes in their teens to people pushing age 90. Together, Vaughn and his small team are unraveling some of the emerging mysteries that for whatever reason, have become taboo to discuss in some practices, especially when it crosses into vaccine adverse events.
I always say it's almost like there's two worlds. There's before COVID and after COVID. And a lot of doctors are still living in the before COVID world where everything's in the textbook. People would come to me.
Vaughn thinks he's figured out why people who've had both COVID and COVID vaccines often seem to get the sickest. And it has to do with what's seen in these immunofluorescent images, something called fibrin.
So we are designed all to make fibrin. Fibrin's one of the first kind of response mechanisms.
Forms a clot if you're injured or something?
It's like trauma, infection, all those kind of things. You're going to make fibrin as a response to that. But the fibrin you usually make is, again, like spaghetti that just came out of the colander. But the fibrin that you make in response to a spike protein that's associated with COVID and the vaccine is kind of like burnt spaghetti with cheese in it that you have to get a Brillo pad and get it off the bottom of a casserole dish with. And if you can't get rid of them, they sludge up the small vessels and inhibit the delivery of substrates. And those are things like red blood cells, which carry oxygen. And so in that case, if you can't get oxygen to tissues, you're going to have significant dysfunction at every level.
Today, Vaughn and his team are fielding requests for help from as far away as Germany, conducting original research and sharing what they're learning. For Full Measure, I'm Cheryl Atkinson.
Well, a return on the horizon for one of the Ravens' top pass rushers. Tyus Bowser speaks with Fox 45 for the first time since his injury. Coming up next on Sports Unlimited. What better way to cap off the long weekend with some Ravens football? Some fans showing their support as the Ravens take on the LA Chargers tonight. Here's Alistair and Audrey getting excited with their purple foam fingers. Let's go Ravens. And here's Adrian repping it up for a Christmas tree. She looks great. Well, we'd like to see how you're cheering on the Ravens. Send us your pictures through Chime In at foxbaltimore.com and the WBFF app. That's all for the news at 10. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you so much for watching. Morgan Atson and Rocco DeSangro keeping their eyes on the Ravens as they join us now with Sports Unlimited. Morgan and Rocco.
Yeah, that we are, Mary. Coming up tonight on Sports Unlimited, the Ravens under those bright LA lights without Mark Andrews.
Yeah, win tonight for the Ravens, and they can once again be the best team in the AFC and first to 9 wins after 12 weeks of play.
The Ravens are in the division driver's seat with the Browns and Steelers hot on their tails. How the AFC North is shaping up through the first 12 weeks of the season.
Ravens outside linebacker Tyus Bowser has yet to see the field in 2023. His first comments on his knee injury and if he expects to play this season when he joins the show one-on-one.
And the battle for Greater Baltimore on the hardwood is Towson and Morgan State. Would it be the Bears or the Tigers snapping their losing streak? Find out next on Sports Unlimited. Let's jump right into this. Ravens taking on the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. We can't show you the highlights because of broadcast restrictions. Rules are rules. The Ravens lead this one 13-3 in the third. What's up, everyone? Welcome into Sports Unlimited. She's Morgan Adsit. I'm Rocco DeSangro. While the Ravens and Chargers have the Sunday night stage, the rest of the AFC North is already wrapped up, Morgan.
Yeah, but before we hit up Week 12, college basketball getting a full Sunday slate with two locals meeting at CQ Arena. It's the best thing about local hoops in our area. The D1s play each other. Towson hosting Morgan State. Tigers led by 12 at the break. Second half action, Bears trying to get in it. 3-ball corner pocket will do. Kieran Oliver helps Morgan down 9. Slow transition up ahead to true freshman Tyler Tejada. Towson up 45-32. Bears run out